Standard ADA disclaimer, I do not have any financial interest in a product in my talk or in any companies offering grant monies for this continuing dental and medical education program. So if you've heard me talk before, I come from the world of dentistry, but I transitioned over to what I used to call the dark side. I would never be one of those people behind a desk. I am one of those people behind a desk. The thing that drives me crazy is when good people get the short end of the stick due to a technicality. So I do a lot in risk management. So today's topic began as there's never a problem until there's a problem, HR Department 1. The world changed as we knew it just about a year ago, so now we have COVID in the HR Department of 1. And if I'm lucky, this is going to work. There we go. So we mentioned this just a moment ago. I've always done it this way. It's fine. I don't see what your problem is. It's the 800-pound gorilla, and just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean you should still. These are my top 10. A charge of harassment. I am not an attorney. I don't pretend to be an attorney, but I get calls frequently from IAOMT dentists. So my assistant said this, my hygienist said that. A patient is now concerned about. The reality is the world is different. And what used to be okay, when I went in dentistry in 1970, I was in the Navy. I was the short one. I was the blonde. I was the Hun. I was the girl. You don't do that anymore. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to go through these quickly because we're a little short on time. Started a few minutes late, and you can read along with me. There is a slide for each one of these, so let's get going. Back in my day, it was okay. It's not okay now. When you are talking to someone, keep your comments to yourself. When you were talking about someone, keep your comments to yourself. So these are all examples of harassment. Hun, sweetie, my girl, the blonde. If someone says something to you that offended me, I'm sorry, I meant no offense. That's it. You don't have to say anything else. I have taken this past year over 30 hours already just this year from attorneys on harassment. And if you've not taken harassment classes, I advise you to. There's a lot of them online. Just Google it. I have had doctors tell me, and I have had friends tell me, I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I'm admitting something. Here's the thing. Do you know what most victims want to hear? The acknowledgement of, I'm sorry. And what do most victims do if they don't hear that and someone tries to justify their actions? It goes on and on and on. So just say, I'm sorry, I meant no offense. That's it. Don't say, back in my day, no. So I'm sorry, I meant no offense. Oh, and if you ever get something in writing, ever, call your malpractice carrier. That's the person who will defend you. That's the person that you talk to. Okay, so world goes on. You now have an older employee, and you think said person is slipping. I don't have gender bias. I am going to call this she for the most part because most dental auxiliaries are women. Someone's slipping. What's a reasonable accommodation? That depends on your practice. If this is someone that you notice is in the restroom all the time, oh, and this could be a man too because men get older, gee, you don't just start saying, hey, Sue, why are you in the bathroom all the time? And you certainly don't go to a coworker, hey, so what's going on? Like, bladder problems? Really, those are non-employee questions, but you could say, hey, Jean, I notice that you're away from the desk often, or I notice that you're leaving the patient. What should I be aware of? That's it. You ask an open-ended question. What should I be aware of? Now they tell you, I'm diabetic. I have to pee all the time. I've got bladder control issues. I've got whatever. And by the way, you're doing this confidentially, not in front of the patient, not in front of coworkers. Okay, you need to get up and use the restroom. That's fine. We can make that work. But what if this is somebody who is a surgical assistant and you're going to be doing 4 implants and they're going to be standing for over an hour? Maybe Jean isn't the one to scrub in there. You have to have the conversation. Do you think you'll be able to? Because I can't have you running out. How are we going to work this out? Maybe they have to talk to their physician. Maybe they need something different. But what if they need time off for medical appointments? Now this happens, I don't care what your age is. There is a difference between, hey doc, I need to have some time off next Wednesday afternoon. My physician is off the same day that we're off in the office. It has to be during our business office hours. I need to leave at 2 o'clock. Does that work for your schedule? Maybe yes, maybe no. You have to have that conversation. If you can possibly make this work, that's a reasonable accommodation. If you say there's no way, we are booked solid, I can't. These people have waited weeks to get in. I absolutely can't. Call your doctor's office back. See what else they have available. In our world, Thursday morning would work. In our world, Monday afternoon would work. Explain to your doctor. It's just like he or she would not want to be shorthanded either. So reasonable accommodation means reasonable for you as employer as well as reasonable for them as employee. And if this happens frequently, you're going to have a conversation that, do you need to take a leave of absence? Should I get a temp in here? What's going on? As an employee, a person has the right to their privacy, but once it crosses into their world that they accepted the job from you, you do have the ability to ask them. Different seating arrangements, sometimes people just want to stand up at their desk. We've gotten those little desks, you put them on top of your desk, you lift them up, you put the computer right in front of it, and we put nice little gel pads in front of them. They can work just fine, and I had somebody who kept saying, my butt hurts when I sit all day. What would you like? I can make this work for you. That's a reasonable accommodation. And sometimes it comes down to reduced working hours. So let's say there are 3 people here. Oh, and by the way, just because the one on the end has gray hair does not mean said person is old. There are people who are prematurely gray as well, or may have just wanted blue hair that day. So there's your wonderful knowledge base, just so that you know, if you're having this conversation at home and you're saying, so-and-so is getting older, I don't think they can do it anymore, I think I'll replace said person with somebody younger, and by the way, we'll save a few bucks. If you don't know what salary compression is, it's that older worker who is advanced little by little and now is up to, let's just say $25 an hour. The one who came out of college isn't going to start at 18. They're going to want $25 an hour or more. So bear that in mind. All right, so of course you have to hire right. Welcome to the brand new world of they're getting $300 a week additional unemployment. It's going to be tough. But the best you can do, be specific on your job, specific on your job title. Is it a dental assistant who is a sterilization and sanitation person, or do you need expanded function? Do they need to know how to scan your models or scan the patient's mouth? More information leads to better applicants. Your hours and days. I look through ads periodically. I'm roaming through Indeed. Full time. What does that mean? In many offices, well, we work 2 nights and a weekend day. Tell them when they're going to work. A brief statement about your culture. We are a small, intimate practice of 5 employees who are amazing team workers, work together, kind of a niche practice. Versus, we are corporate. We do things in a big scale, on a grand scale. We want to have you come and join our multi-office team. Make sure you include what that is. Salary range. Did you know you cannot ask someone what they made before? Because past performance has no indication of future. They may have been in an overpaid position, they may have been in an underpaid position, but you can't ask. You can give your salary range. You absolutely don't want somebody who's asking $10 an hour more than what you're paying to be looking at you and telling you why they're more valuable. Your location. Are you in a small town or are you in a big town? Do you have public transportation? Do they need their own ride? And how to reply to you. I love this. I scan through some of these. There's no way to apply but a phone call. The rest of your office does not want those phone calls. Trust me. So now you can interview somebody. You cannot ask origin, disability, religion, gender, or sex. And you cannot assume someone's pregnant or not. But what you can do is have a schematic that you go by. I have an interview application page, and I go through this all the time. I did one Zoom interview this morning, pulled it up on my iPad, filled in my little page. Simple. Why did you go into dentistry? I don't care what position they're looking at. Why did you go to dentistry? It gets them talking. What attracted you to my job post? Is there any reason you couldn't work the hours? Talked to a woman this morning that I talked to 2 weeks ago, and now she has applied to a multitude of jobs that have nights and weekends. So even if she doesn't like my early morning, she's interested. What type of experience do you have? It is never a good idea to ask how many years have you been, let's just say dental assistant. They've been a dental assistant in an office where all they do is suck spit and clean up afterwards. You want somebody who's CEREC certified. You want to know, what have they been doing recently? What continuing eds have they taken recently? What value do they bring to your practice? Hold up, this is what I do. I have a Perio Pro that I carry around. Oh, and this morning could not use Zoom, so don't tell me you're technically advanced if you don't know how to get on Zoom. What is this? And then they squint and they look and they go, well, that's a Perio Pro. Great. Who uses that and why? You'll find out if they know what they know. What they know, if they say they know. Give them a copy of your job description. I know dentists in particular that say, I don't need one. Here's the thing. You dismiss, let's just say we're dismissing Jean, and Jean goes to her labor relations board or her unemployment agency and says, he told me I wasn't working out. Well, you've talked to Jean 6 times in the past 5 weeks. So you know me, but there was no paper trail. Oh, and what was she supposed to do? She's supposed to assist. She's supposed to do this, 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 this. Where is it written down? Make sure you have a job description. If you don't have one, contact me later. I'll just drop one from my Dropbox to you. But you absolutely have to have a job description, because if you don't know what they're supposed to do, they're going to make it up as they go. Do you need any type of accommodation? People are larger in general. Don't assume someone's pregnant. They're going to leave you. It just could be their size. Tell me about a time. This is the most, to me, one of the most important questions. Tell me about a time when you calmed an upset patient, or if you're a pedo practice, calmed an upset parent, worked out a conflict with a coworker. What did you do about it? Would you do anything different today? And sometimes you hear the, oh my gosh, this happened like 4 years ago. But knowing what I know now, I would handle it so differently. These are real life situations. This is what's most important, and you can judge what's going to work for you. As you know, schedules can run behind. No kidding. Would you be willing to work overtime if needed? That's important, because does it happen? Oh yeah, happens in my office, happens in yours. Tell the candidate to get back to them and when, and ask if they have any other questions for you. At this point, they probably don't. What I am doing now, and this is not just for COVID, it's going to work out for a long time to come, I do preliminary interviews via Zoom. If they look good, then we invite them into the office for an interview. But this way, I'm doing it in my schedule, on my availability. I can be in Florida, and I can interview someone from Michigan. So that works. Okay, so you hire Jean. Jean's going to start work. She's got the job description. She accepted it. And now you're going to hand the employee handbook. How often do you update your employee handbook? Anybody know? Any ideas? Okay, folks, it's every single year. You know why? Because the world has changed, and every single year rules change. You should not have bought a handbook from a pre-made handbook from a company. There were a whole lot of them that had nothing to do with dentistry and nothing to do with your office, and said, here you go, and we put it in the desk and we don't talk about it. Everything in there has to be suitable for your office. If you are in, well, best place to ask, if you don't have one, ask your malpractice carrier, who should I contact about making a handbook? In many cases, there's legal language, there's NLRB language. I know there's no unions, but guess what? The government makes us bow to the same rules. So you have to have specific language in there, alternative dispute resolutions, conflict resolutions, and never, ever, ever talk about probationary, because that implies after said person has passed 60 days, 90 days, whatever that time period is, they have a job. We have a getting acquainted process. In our office, it starts on day 1, and it's going to take a good 6 months. This is our getting acquainted process, and we have informal talks in between, all the way leading to the first real performance evaluation. But make sure somebody, preferably an attorney, looks through it. And I know that sucks, but that's the way of the world now. Okay, employee records. So anybody here who's done hiring knows that since the late 70s, early 90s, or sorry, since the 1980s, we have I-9s. I-9s are filled out once, and it proves that someone is eligible to work in the United States. Not that they're a U.S. citizen, but that they're eligible to work. You must keep it in a separate file. In my office, I have a red file folder. They are all there. They're not kept in the employee's handbook or in the employee's files at all. And they're kept for 3 years or 1 year after termination if they've been there 3 years or more. You don't have to update them if they get married. There was a period in time where they said you don't keep a copy of what you use to verify. Now the rule is you take a black and white, I just make a copy of whatever they're using to verify, but you must hold it. They cannot write down their social security number. They have to hand you the social security card. They have to hand you a copy of their passport or race seal birth certificate. It's one from column A, one each column B and 2. Pretty simple stuff. Most people are familiar with those. Oh, and by the way, when that is done, you shred it when that time period is done. Don't keep old records that you don't need. OSHA. OSHA is another separate file. We have a medical file on each employee. The medical file says who to contact in case of emergency. We review those once a year. We do an annual OSHA renewal, which in my office is March. If there is anything like a needle stick, you must by law keep it 30 years. So yes, that's a long, long time. You sell your practice to somebody and here's somebody's OSHA file. You must do that. Okay, remote workers, because a lot of people are working remotely, and I have talked to several dentists that said, well, my biller now works remotely, or my scheduler works remotely, and that's just fine. A couple things to consider. How many devices are attached to their home internet? In most homes, there's one parent working and one child on a device. How watered down is their stream of information? Who chooses and provides the security software? So if you have someone who's using LogMeIn and they're going into your software and they're scheduling patients and, oh, they might have their banking information open and they're ordering from Macy's and their kids are on Amazon, you're now having the potential to cross-populate information that you don't want. And then who's responsible for the updates and patches, and who's responsible for HIPAA violations. So again, the kids, the laptop's open, the kid's there, or the father's there, another spouse is there, somebody's looking at it and says, huh, I didn't know Jim Jones was one of your patients. That's a HIPAA violation. So work with your software vendor. Hey, I'm going to have 1 or 2 people able to log in. And what happens when one of those persons wins the lottery and moves away? They've got the passwords. How do you address that? Who is responsible to change it? Make sure you work with your software vendor. Because this happens, this is me. We have a new update. Yes, I use Xfinity. Dear users, usually Xfinity calls me by name, but okay, dear users, log into my account. Now look at I think this will work. Yeah, classic version of email will be replaced by a new version. Okay, log into my account. All backed by Comcast customer guarantee. There's the Comcast logo. But you see up here where it's undisclosed recipients and one more? I have fun with these. Here's, oh, there I am. I'm blind copied. Dear users, okay, the rest of it's still the same. Let's see who Xfinity is. When you click on from, and I'm sure you all do this on your devices anyway, I find out that this is Wendy Jocelyn at Gmail. Yeah. So the next course that I did, block this content. Block it, spam it, get rid of it. Do your employees know that? If they're younger, probably. If they're older, maybe not. If they're tech savvy, doesn't matter if they're, they could be older and an early adopter, that's fine. But make sure somebody has been trained and knows what to do with this. Knows to get rid of it. Because this is the biggest thing that's happening. I follow ransomware a lot. I follow crap on the dark web. I put myself out there kind of funny just to see how it, if you put some stuff out there, it's kind of funny how quickly in hours you have been breached. Yep. Ransomware. Ransomware is a big deal. They lock your device. Remember, parent at home, kid on devices, and everything's cross-populating, no security. They've gotten through to your system. Look at this. Employer employees, especially home employees, are the weakest link of the chain. In 2019, about $800,000 shot up to 1.3 million. So the things that you watch for, and you tell your team, ISO files, executable files. Look, there was going to be a new update on Xfinity, except it wasn't mine. Compressed files, that would include zip files, installers, and Office documents. So there's a Microsoft Word, looks like it came from one of my employees. If I'm going to open it, look, I'm going to make sure the email's from her first. And usually I'm going to text, hey Sherry, I'm sending this to you, will you take a look at it? Make sure your team starts to do that. Nothing is so critical that someone has to open it. What's the worst that happens? You stick this email in your junk folder, your spam folder, and it disappears, and 2 days later you hear, hey, I sent something to you, you didn't open it. Oh, was that yours? Okay, no problem. Resend it to me. That's the worst that happens, because the very worst is your huge fines. So these links are on the slides. You can read the whole documents on your own. Oops, let me back this up. And while we're talking about websites and internet, Google's updating their logarithm in 2021, May of 2021, the slides from last year. Do talk to whoever your web developer is. It's all about speed. And if somebody tells you something about these letters, HIPAA is just a company that does speed. What you're looking for is that you have speed. Google will no longer put you to the top of a list, even if you buy the top of a search list, and even if you buy AdWords, if you don't have proper speed. So when somebody comes in and says, oh, we can update, and first input display is bad, you know what they're talking about. All you need to know is that you need speed in 3 categories. All right, so everybody's got an opinion, right? How do we used to go to work in the morning? We listen to the radio. And you might listen to your happy music, you might listen to the news, you might not listen to anything at all. And then you bring that into the office with you, right? Because there's another generation that gets their information very differently than you. If you find when you walk into the office in the morning, or any of your employees walk in with a really bad attitude, takes them an hour or so to kind of calm down. You have one of those, don't you? Or maybe you are one. But I have had to have a conversation with people to say, come on over here. What are you listening to when you drive into work? And if you're one of those people who yells back at the station, you need a different station in the morning, because that attitude just exudes from you, happiness or anger. It's both there. And by the way, you should know these, in case you missed it, but when there's a fear of missing out, there's a lot of information that goes by that is really not that important. This is a big one right now. We are in the era of COVID, and depending on what state that you're in, situations are more lax or more stringent. Employees may start to come back to work, maybe back to work, maybe you hired someone who was staying home for a while, just doesn't feel safe. Unfortunately, the law is pretty specific. They have a right to job protected leave. Now, you don't have to pay them, but they do have a right. If they're in a high risk category, because they're immunocompromised, they might be entitled to a reasonable accommodation. If you have 15 or more employees, the Americans with Disabilities Act applies to you. Small practice, 7 people, it doesn't, but they still hear this from their friends and neighbors. If they use their leave and they run out of it, a reasonable accommodation would allow them to work from home, or if working from home is not possible, take an unpaid leave. Can your hygienist work from home? Can your chairside work from home? So there is a quasi rule that says a medical provider is not applicable to this. So in the world of dentistry, your dentists, associate dentists, hygienists are all licensed providers. It depends who you talk to in what state and what legal entity you're talking to. Some say assistants are entitled to the leave because actually a doctor could work without an assistant. Not practical, but yeah, some states say assistants, yeah, they're needed. It's like a nurse in an operating room. However, business team are entitled to leave. If they live with someone who's at a higher risk, sadly, the law leaves them totally out. Good for us, sad for them, but we strongly recommend allowing them to work from home if possible or take an unpaid leave if requested. That means they request it from you. I'm staying here and in tears. My husband now is immunocompromised and I just don't think I can work anymore. I'm around all these people. I need to stay home with him. And you're looking at me saying, I need you here. And I'm at an impasse. I'm freaked out because his physician just said, this is the way it has to be now. You're sadly going to have to say, gosh, I will try and get a temp to fill your shoes. I'm sure you feel awful about the situation, but that's the reality of what's going on now. And a lot of the rules have been extended. A lot of things that were going to sunset in September were extended to the end of December, which were extended till the end of March, which are now talking about this coming September. So you just really have to work with someone. Just so you know, yes, there is a limitation. FMLA applies to 100 employees. If you're in corporate dentistry, someone in your corporate setting would be addressing that for you. There is a limitation on sick leave. This is one of the groups that I work with, Dinsmore. And if you were to pay someone and they're staying home and you're paying them on leave, there is a tax credit for that. Those have been extended to the end of March and are now being extended into summer somewhat. So work with your accountant if that applies to you. Our friend OSHA. OSHA has rules about what they consider as reasonable, which might not apply to you at all. But OSHA says, when possible, the employee asks the employer to eliminate a danger and the employer failed to do so. I'm an employee, I walk to work and I go, oh, there's a cord right across the floor and it's arcing. We should be working. And my doctor says, yeah, don't worry about it, just step over it. That would be a clear and present danger. The employee refused to work in good faith, which means the employee must genuinely agree an imminent threat exists. I'm not going to step over that cord. I'm not going to step on that cord. I'm not coming anywhere near that cord. I'm not bringing patients in the office. That is imminent danger. A reasonable person would agree. Exactly. And there isn't enough time because of urgency to be corrected through regular enforcement channels. Doc's going, hey, this patient's coming in, they're in pain, we're going to make this work, I'm going to throw a rug over it, I'm going to take responsibility, we're going to get this one done, and I'm calling the electrician. Now, compare that scenario to, I'm kind of freaked out about COVID, I think it's really dangerous that we have people come into our office, I don't know what you're going to do about it, so judge the seriousness all the way along the way. Anybody not do a risk analysis and COVID preparedness plan? Yes. Every state is different. Every state has one. Mine is 8 pages long. Has to address what your state Health and Human Services Department requires it to. Your state may be different than mine. Excuse me. Our friend ADA actually came up with something pretty good about what we had to do with emergency rules, gave us a nice format. You can look that up on the ADA website. It is still valid today. You're going to have a safety guideline that you're going to put up for your patients. We have this on our website. We have it on our Facebook page. We have it on our Google page. We have it in the office. What to do, how to call, how we clean and sanitize, which I say it's what we've always done. And then after your appointment, this one changes frequently. If you become COVID positive in the blank days following your appointment, please notify us by calling the phone number. It was 14 days. It went to 10 days. It's gone to 3 days. At one point, it was 2 days. It's back to 3 days. So that changes frequently. Guidance on the best practices. Even OSHA says they change and can change daily. So you have to show good faith effort, require the social distancing and masks. Several states are dropping the requirements for masks. Bless you. If your state drops the requirements and some of your employees feel safer wearing a mask, wear a mask. All your clinical staff's wearing a mask anyway, but if your business team says, you know what, I just feel better with it, great, that's fine. Screening logs on all patients and visitors. You should be doing this. If you are on software, if you're on Dentrix or EagleSoft, you can make a little template. We ask the questions. In our practice, they call from the parking lot. We ask the standard health questions. We invite them to our atrium. We record their temperature using a touchless thermometer. And then that's recorded by admin, and then they come in. All of our employees have a health log. It's changed monthly. You have to keep those for 6 years now. At least 3 years. In Michigan, it's 6 years. And notify your health department if someone is COVID positive. We just follow the rules. The first time we did that, I didn't know what to do. It's like, okay, call the health. First time, just before we opened, I called my health department. So what do I do if someone's COVID positive? They said, you call us. I said, I know, but I'm having my COVID preparedness and readiness meeting, and I need to tell them what we do. You call us. And then what? She says, well, we tell you when you call us. Okay, I'm on the phone with you now. Can you give me guidance? Every county has different rules or can have different rules. So make sure you're county specific. If you work in one county and your employee is in a different one, you may have to call 2 counties. So you should know that. I know, it just is what it is. It's what we're doing. So there is some guidance for billing for COVID. I don't know if anybody's done teledentistry. I think this is get your dribble drill and open wide. There are codes for teledentistry. If you do teledentistry, it's not the same as somebody taking a picture of my broken tooth. Do I need to come in for this one now? It only hurts a little. That's making a triage appointment versus somebody on the phone with you or in a Zoom conference with you for, say, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. But there are codes so that you're aware of them. If you're sharing information, there's the web page. And of course, now there are new codes. You can do antigen and antibody testing. Every year you should be keeping up with the ADA changes because the nomenclature changes with the code. And this has happened. So here's my video. I want to kind of wrap up here. Vaccines and mandates. We're not going into it's a messenger RNA. We're not going into personal beliefs. But patients, God bless them. So, Doc, you're getting your COVID shot, right? You're old enough, right? You're getting your COVID shot. Are you getting your COVID shot? I got my COVID shot. You have 2 really nice options. One, you put your fingers right in their mouth. They can't talk to you anymore. And if they insist, we just go, you know what, we can't talk about that, it's HIPAA. Yeah, but I know you do everything right, so I know you're going to take a COVID shot. You know what, I actually can't talk about that. That's it. That's all you have to say. Don't explain anymore. Just, that is it. This is the new stimulus plan that just passed. Employees are not motivated to return to work anymore. Oh, geez, I'm interviewing and I need a hygiene assistant, and you know that's the lowest rung. So, yeah. Tattling. I haven't heard from my office, but I've heard from others. I heard from somebody yesterday. Yeah, so-and-so tells me this employee was out in her backyard having a barbecue with her friends over. What do I say? Nothing. Like, really? It's not in their job description, but you know they're not supposed. You know what? What people do in their free time is their time. I'm concerned with what happens in this office. Let's get the first patient in. Just totally let that go. If they're not doing something illegal or immoral or unethical, I shouldn't say unethical because some people would consider COVID activities unethical. You have to just let that go. You have to tell the other employee, look, we don't tattle on each other. The reality is she keeps sanitation standards just like you do. My standards are high. Every single person, every single patient, every single time. You keep the sanitation standards. That's what matters. The unemployment benefits are now through the end of summer. They're looking at going through the end of the year. I think they're now in September. It just passed yesterday. It had some changes. The last one I really want to make you aware of. The federal minimum wage increase, which will eventually come. It's that, as far as I know, it didn't pass yesterday. The increase to $15 an hour by 2025 means all costs of goods and services are going to slowly go up. little by little by little by little. If you didn't raise your fees last year, do them this year. If you want to be real conservative, do 2%. Most people do 3%. If you're going to pay your lowest person $12 an hour and now take them up to $15, everybody's going at $3 an hour. If the grocery store is hiring at $15 an hour because they're going to meet with what the federal standards are, your assistants are worth more. Your hygienists are worth more. Your business team, who are your calling card when that phone gets picked up, are worth more. In order to pay more, the cost of goods and services also goes up. And if you want to know how that affects managed care, come to my next session. Good little plug for me, huh? Oh, come on. We got one more here. Well, that's okay. I've got arrows. Oh, this is a good slide. I'm stuck. Okay, I'm just going to read this one to you. You can't see the cute graphic, though. You can't wave a magic wand. You will never make anybody happy. If you are married, you know that. Oh, there you go. If you are married, you know you cannot make everybody happy. If you have children, if you have relatives, you know you can't. But you can provide PPE for everyone and enforce it. We had a situation where a younger worker did not want to wear her mask when she was sterilizing instruments. And I said, do you realize that you are now moving things that are contaminated? And OSHA is here to protect you, not me. I want you to wear your mask all the time. It is a condition of the job. You saw it in the job description. If you're not wearing it, then you're not working. So make sure. Make sure you put up sneeze guards where appropriate. You're not going to put them up between patients, but obviously at your business team. If you have something that's of a temporary type of sneeze guard, maybe you want to buy something more permanent, because the high probability is that's not going away. And people do sneeze. You get cold and allergy season. Sanitation rules apply to everyone. Signs and placards as required, and be sensitive to their concerns. This is it, folks. If they know that you appreciate them, and they know that you are doing the best you can so that you can serve your patient population, they're going to be more receptive. So, oh, my little bonus there, just in case you're not aware, last fall, may have slipped by you, EPA required dental effluent guideline statement. Go to that website, you fill out the paperwork once, and you keep it in office. I just like to protect people's licensure. It's your road. Others can walk it, but no one can walk it with you. I thank you for your time